Bridges, Aldcombe, Haywards Heath, Wibblesfield, Burgess Hill, Essex, Preston Park, and Brighton.
With it, turn the phone the other way and just walk with showing. Yeah, yay, you got it.
Okay, this is the labeling I'm doing for.
Oh, see, now there's a garden.
That's my yucca. That's my. I have Korean mint. I have
Ooh.
cypress. This is where we light up our Christmas tree. I mean our wreath, and then a little. We have a Japanese white pine, which is in front of. Can you see it?
Yes.
You can see it. Okay. All right.
Yes,
and,
I was muted. Yes.
okay.
That feels more like a garden.
Oh gosh. Now this is where I'm gonna have the students. You see the rock formations? We're gonna paint that a beige color to give a sandy look to it. This here's our medicine wheel over here, where I have our collection of herbs and spices for kitchen gardening. Okay, are you still with me?
Yes.
Yes,
But we're
can
on
you
mute.
share?
We're
Okay,
on
now-
mute because every time we talk, we cut off your video. So I put Liza and myself on mute so that we wouldn't disturb the video.
Okay.
Bill,
Now,
can you share a little bit about what is in each garden? What plant?
yeah, I can do that. This is I have French thyme, basil, dill around the medicine garden, and then this will be my carrot where my carrots will be, and then this is going into the the medicine Buddha, which actually he's known as. You can see he's a figure that he was like he would collect herbs thousands of years ago, and being able to identify different plants and herbs. So this area is dedicated to him. And this is where my blueberries are. This is the crisp, it's an apple tree. This is bamboo right here. So the only thing you'll find that, the wind blows the paper from the main street onto here sometimes. This is sagegrass. It gets pretty high. It's beautiful. And then the University of Chicago donated these beautiful uh, metal raised beds in circular pots that we can add color to the area. This green here is called juniper rug, and it stays this color throughout the year. This is where I'll be. It hasn't up yet, but I'm growing everything in my basement with a green light system. I have about 5 or 6 rows, and this is where my purple basil and my this is from viola, which is part of the connected to the impatient family. Right here, that's a pancake arborvitae, a shrub there. This is a gift that was given to me from a sculpture friend of mine. His name is Sidney Murphy. So I call it Angel with Wings, but he applies resin uh, to most of his work, and it's freestanding, which is really beautiful to see. This here is the school was getting rid of a baby grand piano, but I'm going to change it into a monarch butterfly. Uh, so in this area, I have like Blue Star Juniper. This is a Japanese maple that we put this area of. Bonsai is over there. Another Japanese white pine, yucca, coreopsis is not up yet. Lamb's here is still sleeping. Corabels, you can see the corabels. And this is my irises here. This is orange currant. It really produces orange berries, which are from the raisin family or uh, currant family. Uh, these are my blackberries here. It's about mid-May, it'll start to come alive. And then these are called red spider lilies in this area. And so this pathway, some of my students from all over the country, from New York to California to Texas to Michigan, they came and helped me create this walking pathway. And so the school is remodeling, so they had a lot of gravel to give away. And so they brought it over here. And so the kids made with the pavers that we had here, they created a pathway throughout the garden. This here is a Japanese forest grass. And I may cut it because it usually, but maybe I'll just leave it. I'm just thinking about that. As far as new growth coming in, I usually cut it. These pavers were given to me from the University of Chicago. This here is called Divinely Blue. It's from the Himalayas. It's a cedar, but it turns turquoise in the winter, which I'm really quite proud of. And it's one of my favorite pine trees. And then this is the front area. And if you look, this way, I'm only about a block and a half or 2 blocks from the new Obama Presidential Center. This is a friend of mine named Sura. He creates rock sculptures. So that's part of his work. There's my daffodils. And then as we move through here, it's bearing fruit. This is called, it's a blood. Wait a minute. It's really from I've just it'll come to me because I just made some signs for this one, but it's it's really an ivy from the ivy family. And this is a Japanese maple that's waking up. And this is where we have our classes and events that happen in this area. So my students will be in today to help me get things organized for Earth Day. The school will be coming uh, the whole school will be visiting the garden next Tuesday.
So Earth Day is this Sunday?
No, I'm celebrating it on Saturday. Earth Day, the official day of
No,
Earth
I
Day.
meant your program is Saturday, so I have it on the calendar.
Yeah, are you,
Saturday.
will
Okay.
you be able to make it?
Now that it's Saturday, I should.
Okay, good. You were saying something about going to visit your son. Okay. This is really, I'm surprised. This is a magnolia tree, and I didn't think it was going to survive, but it's doing quite well. Uh,
All the early spring signs of life. It's so beautiful.
yeah. So it's so nice to have the wheelchair accessible. The city of Chicago came out and about a couple of years ago and helped uh, create the passageways. This is it's from Mexico, but this is called it's common rule. So it'll be coming alive next. And then I have knockout roses, and I have yucca, and this is what is a boxwood. So it brings you full circle. And then over in this area, this is where we keep our compost. And this is used tires to create because the lime grass, it keeps it under control because it can't be invasive. And then these are from, it's called Forever Gold. It's also a red cedar. It says a Western red cedar, but it's very beautiful. And so I've lined these up. So we're, and this is, we put up this pergola here. I'm going to apply for another grant, which will come through soon. I'll probably create another one of these in the garden space. So, and this is our seating area where the kids can have lunch and they can play chess or checkers in this area. And then over there is our greenhouse. So it's about 3/4 of an acre. So it's a lot. It's a lot to manage. Okay.
Beautiful.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah, I feel really, I love this space. And so, and then I had no idea that Obama was going to uh, create his, what is it, a presidential center 2 blocks from our garden.
Home of the foundation. That's beautiful location.
Yeah, it
I-
is beautiful. And then
And
over,
it's right across the street also from Jackson Park. Um, heading east is the lake right there. And then to the south of it is the Boys Club, YMCA,
yeah,
YWCA, YMCA,
and yeah,
like that. So that corner is, a lot going on. As people walk by, drive by, as people bike by, there's 2 bus lines that pass, people see, what's going on at the garden. So it's very visible in the community, I think.
yeah, it's really, and my kids love it. They really do. Uh, they've been such a big help to me. So, so here we
And
are.
the youth, they're coming from After School Matters or from
Yeah,
Hyde Park High
school
School
matters.
Academy.
There's a director. She's so excited about coming here to see the garden, and she's coming today. So
Mm.
the kids they're going to be on their best behavior. So, so we won't have any trouble.
You already told them, right?
Yeah, yesterday. So they're really good. And I have a couple, maybe 3 or 4 of them who would really wants to be to give her a tour of the space.
I really like the way like you're standing in front of the tree right there and you can see, I mean, last week it was snowing here, you know, today it's 44 degrees, you know, a little rain this morning, but we're not even into the 60s yet, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. I think the sun warms things up a bit. And then they had on the news yesterday, a couple of days ago, that the cherry blossoms, the Japanese cherry blossoms, are in bloom across the street. It's one of it's noted that Jackson Park has the largest cherry blossom collection because we have with the, you know, what is it called, Japanese garden, which was given to Chicago by the Japanese in 1930, and then maybe 5 or 8 years ago, Yoko Ono did a sculpture at the Japanese garden site, which is, I think she calls it sky and earth. So it's really, I really love it. Have you seen it, Alpha?
I don't know. I know that I went with Suzetta one November to the Japanese garden, botanical
Okay.
garden. We went over there. And that's the last time I've been. I know it's beautiful walking through that. And it was the time of year. I didn't go in the early spring like this to go over there, but that might be a place I can go with my granddaughter Danny. When we come visit, we can take a walk over
Oh,
there and explore.
it's like going into another world. The beauty of it, and it's
Yeah.
so peaceful. And
We had grabbed lunch and went over there and ate lunch over there. It was another person that was, so this was like during the pandemic, you know, when there was social distancing and we got a chance to, you know, to explore that. But again, it wasn't in the spring like now where the cherry blossoms are happening like that. So, well, thank you for the tour, Bill.
yeah,
We were gonna do some placemaking processes review, and we were gonna go through the AARP placemaking toolkit. You know, even though we haven't been awarded that, we were looking at, you know, using that grant application for the garden there. Um, and I don't think it's premature to start, you know, doing that planning and using some of these guidebooks that are toolkits for, you know, community engagement, because we need to have proof that, you know, and document that this has happened. And make sure you're taking plenty of photographs and stuff during Earth Day and other gatherings where you're, especially when you're having a large amount of youth that are there, make sure someone's documenting that. And then for the event on Earth Day, making sure someone's documenting, you know, folks that are there. And we need to have a survey done, you know, with some questions on it. And that's probably why I pulled up the toolkits and stuff that we were going to use today. But yeah, you know, Liza hasn't had an opportunity to see the garden in full summer mode, you know, it's
yeah. I could put a video.
absolutely beautiful, you know, when all the green comes in and all the florals are in and, yeah, it comes alive.
Yeah,
And it really, I think the last thing I attended there was the event where you had public speakers that were there and a band was playing.
yeah.
The one that Alice organized and did. Speakers came in and were did a day of prayer in the garden.
Mhm. We're having I'm telling people if they want to bring cookies or something like that, would basically cookies would be a nice gift for Earth Day, and then people probably gonna it's gonna be a lot of activities going on. Just trying to.
And what time does it start?
Well, it starts at 11 till 4 or 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna go out of town and be here.
Yeah, I didn't know because you were, yeah, I was concerned.
I had planned on being out of town, but I'm gonna be here.
Mhm.
So I'll be able to come by and enjoy the
Yeah,
garden.
nice. And then what about your grand? She won't be able to make it.
Well, I just text her mom to make sure that we're on their, we're on a schedule here. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
Um, and that way we can coordinate the schedule. But I'm letting her know where I'm gonna be. So, if she brings her into the city, that'll be great, and um, we could
I hear.
plan accordingly. She drop her off or I pick her up or whatever. Okay. So, like I said today, and I don't know, I guess I'll just record it because you can't really see it on your phone, right?
Yeah, I mean, see what I can see you clearly.
Okay, I was gonna share and then I'll send you the link, or you can
Yeah.
look at this, when
Oh, I have
Liza
another,
publishes it on Pop-Up Research Station.
something. I wanted to tell you something. Both of
Okay, do I need to
uh,
put everything on mute before?
no, no. I just uh, I'll be doing a garden project on the north side near Loyola University. They want it's a senior citizen, beautiful building, and they have a backyard, so they want me to uh, bring some garden design in that space. So Jim and I, we took a look at it last Friday, and the whole all the residents and members are very excited about it.
Okay, when does that start?
That starts probably mid-May that we're going to start that up.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, nice opportunities.
Yeah, it's a flexibility because I want my kids. The first week of May is their last day, and then we start the end of June for summer school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the calendar that I sent you
Yeah,
in terms.
I did see the calendar and what was, some of the responsibilities that we're in charge
Okay.
of.
Right, and I printed out and I sent it to you so that everybody kind of be on, like, we start putting it on the calendar for things that are coming up, because that's a lot of planning that has to go into each step. And then we have to look at the next step that's going to happen for Hazel Crest, and getting over there and getting our MOU in order, memorandum of understanding. Um, and I haven't got a chance to talk with Marilyn, but we all need to collectively meet with Marilyn since she's the commissioner, and then share the
Yeah,
presentation that I sent to them. And one way or the other, this project is a go. And we have to break it down into different phases of phasing in out here. But we need to get a memorandum of understanding and get that passed by their beautification commission, and then look at when their next meeting is after we meet with Marilyn and Carl, you and
yeah,
I,
yes, yeah, I agree.
and even though we submitted the proposal, we still, everything will still be, as Mr. Sawyer said, we'll be phasing in out there. And everything won't happen all at once, but it'll be, you know, according to the way we put the calendar together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, no, I didn't have yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
Mhm. So with that is why today I pulled up the kind of to review some of the the outline of placemaking, and the different sections that we want to put together to compile another report. And I guess that's on me to kind of assemble our processes and looking at this as a case study for Pop-Up Research Station.
Oh,
And I have been following, projects for public space for, I don't know, for a decade or more, and looking at and using their philosophy and practical processes for transforming public space. I use this with the projects that I've been doing in California as well. And we've already defined the place and identified our stakeholders. And so the next step would be to evaluate the space and identify issues. And then we did place vision. And so our next thing is our short-term experiments and management. Um, and then final step is the ongoing reevaluation and long-term improvements. So I'm just kind of going, and it's something that we don't have to follow, but it's a guide for us to
yeah,
be able,
it's good
you
to have
know,
because it's very helpful, I would say.
right. So what we're gonna do is look at like define the place and identify the stakeholders. And this is basically speaking on the Hazel Crest project. And we've done that by looking at who our board is and our team, which is Mr. Sawyer, um, Marilyn Allen, and Carl Person. And then yourself as the consultant on the project, me coming in assisting you as project management, and my job is to kind of coordinate all this paperwork that we're doing and producing a presentation, and at the end of it, a manual for our processes so they can have this. I saw on their blog needs to be updated, so helping Carl, a little bit with that, but basically managing the uh, the uh, the process.
Yes,
Okay, and then it says when selecting stakeholders should have some direct connection, which that's what we did. Basically, now that we have the church involved as our fiscal sponsor, it's the Hazel Crest Methodist Unity, UMC, United Methodist Church. So
yeah,
they're involved, and the educational organizations are the high schools and elementary schools that are already partnering with the project. Um, we already have like the residents. We haven't really met with the residents and businesses adjacent to the space. So that'll be kind of like our next thing, and that's a Carl and Maryland thing, but introducing us to them. We're already connected with the government officials and facilitators. And kind of getting their vision as well. And then we'll be documenting that, you know, um, so we can show that we have a real well-rounded process involved, and showing a strong partnership is what I did in the application.
yes,
And then here's some key questions, like even for I don't think we'll do this weekend, but sometimes we have when you have the opportunity to have people gathered, we need to have a survey put together. And I'll try to bring a survey for Saturday so we can get some feedback on things over there. But key questions to consider in stakeholder outreach: who is interested in having things change? Are they willing to participate in some way using their talents or funds? And are there any existing funds that could be used to make improvements on a program in the space? And we did get that commitment from Mr. Sawyer. Are there existing organizations that could provide long-term management for the space? And then we have that, already taken care of. So evaluate space and identity. In this step, we need to have the participants take stock of how a space is used and how it can be improved. And I think that's a conversation you can have also with the Environmental Nature Center.
yes,
A placemaking workshop is one of the most effective tools to make use of stakeholders. So that's our next step over there in Hazel Crest. And I'm going to be jumping between both of these projects since they're, we're dealing with them. Um, Common sense input, and again, that just keeping the questions real short and getting some feedback. It shouldn't be a laborious evaluation. The heart of the workshop is a place performance evaluation game and we can set up. And those are some tool sets that Carol uses when she facilitates things. But, you know, we're going to put something like that together for the first event that happens out there in gathering. And I think that we
Yeah,
can use.
I really enjoy the format that you're presenting because it does,
Mhm.
you know, it either allow us to practice new skills
Mhm.
and come to, you know, different levels of understanding how we can move through the project, and also like if we want to make changes or to uh,
Right, and it needs to be fun. And since you're already bringing cookies and got people gathering, you know, then I can make sure that I have these questions, you know, so that people can answer them out there. Either they can do it like, I don't think we have to set up a form where they respond on on the form. Like that, people don't like to take surveys. I found that out in some other projects, they'd rather not. But by talking to folks, we all could have questions that we're answering. Either we record them in writing or I'll figure that part out when and print out how many people do you anticipate coming on Saturday? What's the guest list like?
I it could be 60, you know, or 100. It just depends on, you know, people showing up. But yeah, about
Okay, I'll print out some
there's
stuff
members
and
from my church.
mhm.
The you know, there'll be, yeah, because our congregation is fairly large, like maybe up to 200. And then with Jim and we uh, presented a leaflet. We had leaflets available, flyers, and we did about 50, and they just disappeared. I mean, I was surprised to see that.
All right, so if you could send me the leaflet, then I could print
Yeah,
that out and then print the back and have questions on the back because it's like place performance evaluation game that we can do and make it fun for folks, you know, when they come out to participate. Because again, we need to gather information. So the goal of the placemaking workshop is to better understand the space and its challenges. And so this is kind of like an example of a worksheet game that we can hand out to folks when they come and make sure we bring enough pens and pencils and things. And it's more of an observation game rather than, you know, AARP has one that's more observational and they just answer a few questions and then they just give us the paper back, or we can leave it in a box and then we'll tabulate the responses. I can do that like on a form. So that's kind of like a kickoff workshop for the season by doing it during Earth Day. Um, you know, and like I said, it's for 2 or 3 hours, but you'll be out there all afternoon. So we should be able to have a good response because people will be coming and going and it won't be where they're just, you know, sitting in one space. This can be done like a field trip, you know, with the group, even with the kids coming this afternoon, but it's too soon. I think you'll still be having those kids at some point and we can use maybe some responses from them next week or something, you know, once you get a draft of the game of the worksheet. And then we'll report back, you know, to Papa Research Station on, you know, on some of the discussions and the vision of the space, and then we can brainstorm, you know, for more partners to come on board.
what you're Alpha, you're moving in a good direction. It really, you make it exciting because you know it's sort of like what I'm seeing is like, oh wow, I want to participate in.
Yeah. So the third level is place vision. And so even with the garden that you have, you study, you always have a vision for what you're doing. So that's, you've been in this garden for like what, 6 years now?
8 years.
8 years. Okay. So this place always has a vision, but the vision is always, you know, kind of evolving and expanding. But what we're doing, even with the new one, you got new project with Loyola University, it's still things that you can engage folks in to get
Yes,
the
yes,
vision.
very much so. And I've been thinking that was my project, discussing with them how to get them involved and just look at ways of approaching a creative project of placemaking, basically.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, we already have our mission for Hazel Crest. We a definition of how a space can be used. The nature of the space guides the goals of those involved. And then we can talk with them more about their, their definition of vision, and kind of go into more detail. A description of the intended character of the space, which they've been developing along the way, and have a clear idea of what the space will be, keeps the vision focused. And I think these are some things we can also go over with the artist. I'll start sending them invites to, once we get our MOU in place, invites to attend pop-up research stations so we can have some deeper discussions about, the project and the concept of the project and how they, are within the project. A concept of the plan for how the space could be designed, because we still need to go out there and take a nature walk, look at whatever they're doing for Arbor Day or what they're doing for Earth Day, and go out there. I'll check with Carl and them to see what else is going on this month out there, and then have the artist, because we still have to have a concept plan and layout of the area, and a feasibility plan, and identify any barriers to implementation, because there are some barriers that we didn't look at in our proposal, but we need to go out there and really put the plan together. And then have examples of similar spaces, of parts of spaces, which we have. And then our action plan for short-term and long-term improvements. And this is what I would like to present to the Beautification Commission when we meet with them, and we're given a date to meet with them. And then this is a drawing of one of the vision of the Perth Cultural Center, which is, they're just showing us this kind of layout. And that's something we still need to do, is do a overview. I can take a photograph or a screenshot of Hazel Crest from Google Earth, and then try to get these spaces mapped out a little better than what we sent in as photographs.
Yes, yes.
Because I'm not like I don't know, some people are graphic designers that can graph out all this stuff, but I'm just going to go through Google Earth and show what's there, and then how to kind of map it out.
Yeah, and then the images help in a way. Yeah.
And then we can also do the same thing for the garden space there, because we wrote the ARP application. And so these are some of the things we probably need to do for the space there. And then moving into, and I'm kind of going through this fast because I know your time is limited. So our short-term experiments, and I know that you said, this is what I used in our narrative when I wrote in the grant: lighter, quicker, cheaper. And that's the short-term experiments. And those short-term experiments that Hazel Crest is already doing is that chainsaw art, where they're cutting into the wood. Those are lighter, quicker, cheaper ways of placemaking implementation. And that's like what they're doing out there with those fire hydrants, and then reclaiming discarded things like the pots, when you come in the entryways. So we need to look at what, in terms of implementing our and putting our vision into action. Look at what they're doing, because all this other stuff is not going to really happen overnight out there. But this is things that we can do on the onset of starting and improving the project.
Yeah, I agree.
And do things incrementally,
Yeah.
And this is just the photographs of some projects that have happened that were completed over time. And we know that we can't do everything the first month, but we do know we have a timeline that all of these things that we said we were going to do would be implemented by November of 2026. And most of the artwork that we presented are things like Peter Gray's work. He already has a collection of sculpture that could be leased out there. And he also has things that can be built out there. So it depends on which way the beautification committee wants to go and our funding source.
Yes. And then also, I guess we haven't talked about that as much, but we need to figure out the grant dates so we can be aware that, just be prepared.
Yeah, but
But
that's why I only am going into the short-term improvements with the funding that's been committed with 25,000, and then we're already looking at that matching that William Hill Center for the Arts is bringing in at that 26,000 some change. And then the 25,000 that's committed by. All of it is contingent upon, right now, we could say that we have the 25,000 that's committed, and that would be for the LQC projects, the low, the acronym for that is the lighter, quicker, cheaper projects.
okay,
And that would be where we could propose leasing of a sculpture, but also that means that we have to go out there and bring a general contractor and someone, an inspector that will look at, and Peter is an expert in that, of what it would take to install one of his pieces if they have to do a concrete pad, and then the weight of his sculpture, and that they wouldn't be leaning in the next 3 years. So we'd have to still do all of that work, even to do like some of his sculptures that are for short-term loan,
right,
which were, like that. So that's a lighter, quicker, kind of
yeah,
project. And also the wood carving is a LQC because they're already being done, out there, and you could see it's something that's not created and will take a long term to create, to add elements to what they're already, what I mean, doing out there.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that. So that implement the community's place vision first when we go out there. So those are two things that are quicker, and the LQC. And then it says projects can take many forms, requiring varied degrees of time, money, and effort. So amenities, the flexible seating, we already have that out there. Planters, rotating public art. We just kind of talked about that. Those are low cost means to add activity and comfort to a space. So I think those gathering spaces that they talked about, those are, they fit in that LQC category.
yeah,
Programming,
yeah,
regular events, build momentum, showcase local talent, build new partnerships. While one-off events cannot take the place of ongoing program, they can help test new ideas and adapt the community vision. So we already got that programming down. And that first programming would be in June on that timeline would be um, I should have that right in front of me, but I don't. So we'll move on. Um, the June is the first event or that we would be doing for Juneteenth out there. And that would be, and I have to follow up with a conversation with Alice, and you and I have to sit down and break down that budget for what the expenditures would be for the money that's being allocated right now, as we're waiting on other funding to come.
yeah,
So, and light development is temporary structures can provide an alternative to capital intensive construction. Um, like we know that existing buildings can be given a facelift, while sheds, vending carts, shipping containers, and tinsel structures can enable new use, forge an identity, and attract additional investment. So those are some areas that we have to look at, and then ongoing reevaluation and long-term improvements is another area under that lighter, quicker, cheaper experiments. Can jumpstart the placemaking process. They never truly finish the job on their own. And so, um, we need to go through, we already have a maintenance and program staff members. We can work on them with evaluations and, um, long-term plan that they have for the area. Beyond looking for things that are broken, it focuses on how parts of the space are used over time,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So, so that's just an article, and that's just kind of like a breakdown that I wanted to kind of go over. And then the other part of that is the challenge of exploring your community with the power of 10 is another resource. And I put that in the chat, you know, so I'm gonna stop this. And I put that in the chat for you to look at later. I just see your hand on your phone. What's up?
I was, yeah, I was, I was listening to everything you were saying, you know, so, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, so yeah, I pulled that up as something that we could,
Oh,
you know, look at using.
go ahead.
Let's see. Okay, here's I pulled up another, not the placemaking process, but I also pulled up the challenge exploring a community of the power of 10 for us to look at today. And it's kind of helping us shape our vision for what we want to do out there as well. And it's a concept of project for public space developed to evaluate and facilitate placemaking at multiple city scales. And because I'm recognizing the village as on that scale, because you know we're comparing what we're doing in our narrative to the huge project that they're doing for the center in the art center, you know,
Yes.
like that. So I kind of looked at this, and I'll send you a copy of the link for this. And it's a kind of a breakdown of how cities transform through placemaking.
Okay, interesting. Yeah,
Mhm,
I look forward to reading that
mhm.
material.
All right, so I'm just kind of like scanning right through it. I'm not gonna labor on that, but it is probably not the one I wanted anyway. So I'm gonna go back. Can you see how I went back?
Yes.
Here we are. This is what I wanted to show you actually. So this is like a street with 10 things to do in Amsterdam. You know what I mean? So we can make a list of 10 things to do in Hazel Crest. You know what I mean? The city region, the destination, and the place, because we would like to really, you know, they really need people to, when they're activating the space, they really need people to come and be part of the space. So how do we do that? We can't just build it and they'll come. We have to have them engaged
Yeah.
in, you know, and now that we have, I think, like you said, you have your church involved, we're coming over to the space and they want to do more things with you. Now we have the Hazel Crest United Methodist Church
Yes. Yes.
involved with
We
the
could put
project.
activity schedule, and we can also uh, propose, you know, uh, uh, what do you call? I'm just saying a event that,
Mhm.
you know, draw the community in as well.
Okay, so when we do the power of 10, when you head out on a walk in your neighborhood this weekend, try the following challenges. This is similar to what the PPS team does when we arrive in a new city. We pick the area you want to study. It can be like a single park, a neighborhood, or for our ambitious readers, the entire city, but we're not doing the entire city, we're just doing the single park. We're going to bring a notebook out. So we got to collect some notebooks or take your smartphone and take notes on the smartphone. Write down as many places or things to do as you notice. So around there is really, when we drove through there, what was there to do? When we took that one drive out there in November, what are things to do? And those are things we need to write down. So we noticed that there were no playgrounds.
Yeah, there
I
was
didn't
no.
see any cafes. I didn't see any shops. I didn't see any markets and so on. So we need to create a list of what we saw as we were coming there. It's kind of hard to get to too. Um, then note whether these places are great or have room for improvement. We need some wayfinding signs so people can even find out where the preserve starts, right? Because there's nothing except for the new sign that they have on Kinsey. So we just need to go out there and do that. And once you return home, print out a map of your study area. And then we can digitize it and then put it, I did say I'm gonna go to Google Maps, right? So we'll do that. And then grab 3 different colors of markers and then we'll do that. And then this is how we'll start mapping things. Things like in green are great places, red for unsuccessful, and then yellow for those that have the opportunity to improve. But we still gotta go out and do our investigation or not. And then time to rate your places, mark all the places you observed. And so we can do that with the artist and have this sheet out there for the artist. We can have it out there for the team, and then if they invite any other folks to come that day, then we can have it for them as well. Now, where you are, it'll be easier because you're in a city. And then there's other things that you can map that bring people to the garden. I know it's hard to get in if you have to walk all the way around if you get off the bus. But if you drive, you can in the parking lot right there. I mean, there's other things in observation that can do to improve the space. And a lot of times signage would be helpful. And we
Yeah,
can mark all
yeah,
the places you observe.
it's very important.
Number 6, take a picture of your map and send it to us. We'll do that part. And then I like on here, they had cut case studies of what they did and how it breaks down how they facilitated that. And so there's some other articles that I'll share with you, but I'll share these links that you can do this online.
Okay, that's
So again, I like this, is it 210? So
yeah,
I like the way that we have to really think about how we're putting the feasibility plan together for the public space out in Hazel Crest. And we can do the same for the garden you're in, because like you've been there 8 years, what can you do now to bring in? Alice is doing a lot of work. You guys are doing a lot of work in bringing people there, but sometimes I've come to some of the events and it was a low turnout. Why? Right? So we have to investigate that, even though you're in a prime location, and then you have the school, but then how can you engage more of the community? I think 60 to 100 is a good number for tomorrow because you've passed the invitations out to everybody. But you want to get more folks engaged in what we're doing, especially in Hazel Crest. We want to get those numbers up with people, where the beautification committee sees that it's things that are happening, but it's going to transform over time. But we really need folks to come out when we're having the community engagement pieces.
yeah. And then, like I say, I think the church would play a pivotal role. I mean, there could be other churches as well. And then what about the school system itself?
Right.
Yeah,
They have 2 schools that I know that that we wrote into the project that they already have a relationship with, and that was written in the proposal with the schools, and working with one of the one of the schools is actually written in the proposal for outreach into. There's 3 schools that they're involved, but really getting them more involved.
yes.
And that'll be something they have to do, not us as the consultants going out there, but something that we're going to kind of encourage them, to make sure that they are inclusive of inviting the schools, especially in the summer, by putting some kind of summer resource together where you have a lot of youth coming to work with you in the garden in the summer, because you have done all of that outreach, all that networking, and you're with the University of Chicago, you're with the other church that comes in the summer and brings kids, Sunshine Ministries.
Yeah, I'm starting to actually it's networking, and the networking pays off because people enjoy participating.
The name of that school, I found the name of that school, and that school is Hillcrest High School Art Society.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get them more involved with what they're doing out there. um, especially in the summer, if they're hiring youth summer, if the county, I know the Illinois Arts Council has funding where they hire youth in the summer, so if we expand and trying to get them involved, it'd be better.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, Alpha. I have to get prepared for the kids.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, I'll see you.
I'll see you Saturday.
But
Bye,
I think
Bill. Thanks for the tour.
oh, Liza, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I want to see yours soon.
It's coming along. You'll be super excited soon.
Okay, sounds good. Bye now.
Bye.
All right, so what we did is we took a walk through the Woodlawn Botanical Nature Center with William right now, and here's creating a bond between plants and people is their kind of tagline, and this is some of the areas that he showed us that's in full, when it's in full bloom in the summer. I think he pointed these out as he took us on his tour. So the goal of his garden is to develop community programs, innovative ways to explore, understand, and save plants. We assist youth, adults, and seniors in the exploration of hands-on learning, as well as enriching the lives of a community through fostering an awareness and appreciation of wellness and plant diversity. And this right here, this is his Zen area, and he was studying a lot in Buddhism, so you'll see that whole reflection of, his practice in the little vignettes that he creates in the garden. And these are starting to come up, they're annuals, but our weather here has been like, okay, yeah, we're recording. I want to make sure we're recording. So community working together, you know, um, folks coming out and creating new outdoor spaces, maintaining existing spaces, and youth learn about nature and horticulture. And with the Sunshine Ministry, youth, they come out, they tour and do a community service project as part of their, service. And so they have a rotating group of young people. They also send folks over from the University of Chicago to help in the garden. Um, and this is Sunshine Gospel Ministries that I mentioned earlier. And then they have the Center on Cottage LGBTQ programs that come out and help. And then the South Merle Community Garden Association also comes over to help as partners in the garden. And we talked earlier about the YMCA is right across the street. His other partners are the University of Chicago Office of Civic Engagement. We're in Southside East Chicago Commission, and we are Lawndale, and he works with the 3rd District Police Department and Green Corps Chicago. So it's very important to have those partnerships, when you're, phasing in the community. And so that's something that our objective and goal that we need to do out in Hazel Crest. So we're looking at Hazel Crest, even though they've started it, we're looking at putting their feasibility study together from, just scratch, from the beginning. And let's see, about us and events that are coming up. This is last year's event. So this is their webpage. It's not reflective of 2025, but these are the programs that he currently does over there at the Botanical Garden. And Earth Day is this week, Saturday. So this Saturday is actually like the 19th, but there's things that are going on in celebration of that. And of course, we're going to do the Juneteenth festival at his garden and also in Hazel Crest is proposed. I think that's as much as the Nature Center that I can kind of show you. I do have some photographs that I took of the Nature Center when I go over there with them. Yeah, I pulled this up from AARP, and I really love the work that they do and how they show and give you a lot of information. It's really well thought through, but it's been years of doing putting their toolkits together. So I'm gonna just go skip down to, it's another, putting together, more of a pop-up demonstration. And tactical urbanism, that's one of my things about tactical urbanism that I kind of, I didn't coin, but I like that concept, of working within neighborhoods. And then doing more of a demonstration is something that we need to propose, I guess, for Hazel Crest is something that we haven't done out there. Maybe our first event should be a pop-up kind of thing out there. Um, to test the idea. The infrastructure projects are complicated and costly, but I think they're at that stage already where they've done that and they've tested the idea. Encourage community involvement is where we really need to focus some of our attention, other than just bringing artists out there. How do we encourage the community to kind of get involved, and then to make the case for public support, is another area that, we need to look at barriers where people don't want to participate, why, and how we need to raise awareness among residents to get them more involved, and to have a voice in how to shape their what's going to happen there, as traditional economic development models shift, and we're not really working with an economic development model. I don't think that I'm going to get into that part. That would be more of the government part of this application. To manage reinvention and growth. Pop-up demonstrations can be used to strengthen and integrate existing community leaders, residents, and businesses into new investment activities. I think that's something we can explore. And to engage new residents, demographic changes and employment trends result in people moving in and out of the community, and pop-up projects and events are a useful way to integrate and engage new neighbors. And I think with the conversation that we had, I don't know what I think, but in the conversations that we had with Marilyn and Carl, we talked about the different and the changing demographics out there, and that whole conversation of homeowners that are invested versus renters that are temporarily coming and going in the community. So we want to engage new residents. And how do we do that? And how do we do that from our perspective of artists that are project managing, and we live in the city and we don't live in the community? And how do we get those project managers, like the commissioner and the other Carl, to be more, I don't know, engaged in getting people invested into this project, and then to accelerate decision making. That's where we're at right now. We don't want to overthink and overanalyze the situation, within decision making. And after we had, I think I don't know, do you think, Liza, we kind of overthought this project since we've been dealing with it since November to now?
I mean, I think overthought. I think that having a lot of conversations that lead to more narrowly focused conversations is always a positive thing. Ruling things out, brainstorming is always a very positive thing in the end result, because it alleviates regret. It alleviates any possibility that you should have done things differently. And so therefore, no, I don't believe that this was overthought. I think that's a natural and very successful process to navigate through to get to the best end result.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't want to labor and have people from November, December, January, February, March, April, 6 months later, and then we did submit our application and then submit the plan to the village. But now how do we really shape that plan instead of making it something that was proposed, make it into a plan? And I think that as facilitating this as our case study is our next, I don't know, I'm part of the conversation of how we're going to do that with them. So here We already did, I think our first pop-up demonstration out there will be, in June, theirs is in April. We could have probably done it before that, but maybe we need to plan for, engage the community, make a plan, determine an approach and budget, which we've done, and we'll get to work, host an event, and make it permanent. So I thought about this. I really like the use of this. Placemaking triangulation. Everybody uses food as a social construct. Do we get a food truck out there? I don't want.
Exactly. These were my immediate thoughts. Well, food trucks are the easiest way and the safest way, just because
Mhm,
no hosting food when you don't have a place to prepare it and to ensure that it's safe is difficult. So obviously, food trucks are always super ideal.
or bring
Um,
a caterer in that really
yeah, I mean,
is set up to cater.
yes, I mean, we had our one little small experience with a brand new caterer who didn't know what they're doing. So I hesitate to recommend working with people trying to make a name for themselves. I would look for invested restaurants in the community who really want to do community outreach. You're looking for your Jose Andres out there in the community, and you invite them to conceive of events that deeply engage the local renting community, because they're looking for events. They will invest in events. They might not invest in something long term, but they will pay for an experience. And so
Mhm.
that is a way to mix the renters with the people who are looking to already invest in beautification and cultural enrichment for their community, for their children, for their children's children who might inherit the home. So I think if you can engage local restaurants or restaurateurs or even larger figures, wealthier figures in the Chicago community who might want to come into the area, or local, depending on who has uh, perhaps the bandwidth and the capacity to create something that might not be for an economic gain reason, but more as a social support reason. But if you can have collaborations, are we recording this? Because I didn't want to record this part, but if you can have collaborations with groups who are doing dating events, who are doing organizing around childcare, things that can engage the various segments of the community with food events, I think help generate an interest in the space and an exploration of the space. Obviously, artists who can do light events, especially as the garden is turning into, going more and more dormant, you can bring life with nighttime events and light exhibitions. Yes.
Yeah, because even in the budget for one of these grants I wrote for the project, I put in a budget for like a generator, and I put in a budget for lights, solar lights, to be focused on the trees.
And then
I think,
another thing is, are there local growers, obviously maybe even hydroponic urban growers, or, half an hour, 45 minutes out of town, who might want to have plant sales there in addition to what plant sales, something more coordinate that brings or even local garden growers for food exchanges and things like that.
mhm.
Have all these things already been thought of and I'm just rambling?
No, not for Hazel Crest. I think for Bill's space that we
Oh yeah,
just
yeah, for Bill's space,
visited it,
much more
but
so.
for out there, um,
Food events,
yeah, I don't know.
art events.
Yeah, I don't know what they have done in terms of, um, people have to bring their own. I think that we won't get into, having all of this out there.
Are
I
there
was at an event on in February where the food truck that came for the event could be like, I don't know, that has to be a whole thought process with them and how they want to do that and how they've been doing that in terms of, I think that would be something that the village would do and how many people that would be invited to come. And I know that in Sacramento, when we were doing the food trucks with the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum, we gave people a voucher that they could go to the food truck and we would pay like our volunteers, people that, were working there for the day. And then we had a budget that just paid a blanket amount of money. And we did this also for the California State Railroad Museum. We had a food truck come out. Well, they brought a table instead of a food truck and it changed the whole thing. And it was, kind of problematic when people changed well, we're not going to take our truck. We're just going to take a table and we're going to van. No, that's not what we contracted you to do. We contracted
Now,
a food truck, blah, blah, blah.
have you ever thought of doing like an adult camping event? Is that even possible? Is that crazy?
My daughter, Jasmine Davis, they had an overnight camping trip scheduled with my mother, daughter, or, with your family. And so they went out there and did that. And they brought their tents and their tents were provided and everything. And so that was pretty cool with the overnight, one of the forest. It was a forest preserved by her house. So they're already kind of doing those kind of things. But that's a fun thing to do. Is an overnight. I don't know.
Thinking, like, as a fundraiser to have, some kind of coordinated event where people can camp on site and have the food trucks so the food is taken care of and it becomes more of a social gathering kind of thing. Just a thought.
I'm just writing it down. I think it's a great thought because we have to look at how to, like what's feasible and what can happen out there. And how to encourage. And like I said, I did write down the camp on site because I know that one of my family members experienced the overnight camping, and that therefore there was the s'mores, the everything that went with it.
And then
and
you
I don't
right into travel time because
you know what? I think that this can be implemented on the timeline. We had the Palawan event where that was a nighttime drumming social circle, and it was around the equinox is on that timeline. And I think that something like that would work, for the overnight that would go into the overnight and evening time, the evening drumming circle, and sound.
there you go too. You're
there.
adding things like that. Be really.
But that's what I already have like on the timeline for Open Lands is one of the events out there on the actual timeline and schedule.
And then of course,
and I think that could be implemented during that time. What you're saying with the overnight, if people decide, and I don't know what the policy is for overnight if you have to, because that another level of this is right around the corner from and across the way from the Hazel Crest Police Department, so that probably wouldn't be an issue. Anything wouldn't be an issue with permits.
That's excellent. That
right, with permits and telling people, what they're going to, what's going to happen out there. So, so I think like June 14th is the spring tours begin, and let's see here, June 21st is when we're talking about having the Southside Jazz Coalition members to come and play out there. I'm looking for the overnight, the full moon social drumming. That's August 8th. So that would probably be a really excellent time to start planning something like that, for, and I know with Bill and his garden, Alice meeting with her, I would have to meet with her to plan out because she's their event coordinator. And she has volunteers and people that bring food, and they have a table in the Environmental Nature Center where they prepare food, and they have servers, that serve, and it's a community kind of thing like that. And they, have sandwiches that are, picked up from the local sandwich shop and beverages. And I think they just kind of bring stuff as a big potluck like that. And so we can just, talk about how they want to stage that in Hazel Crest for the drumming circle. And then that could be, I know we did a drumming circle an oasis in the woods where people actually camped out, and there was a fee for them to camp at Juniper's Garden in Brandywine, Maryland. And when we did the pop-up out there with you know, the installations in the woods there. And then the other part of that is that during the day they had a solstice activity, music and all of that. And then that night people could spend the night. And then, they brought their, but I don't know the rules for camping overnight, and that's something that has to be discussed. But I think that would be great for August 8th for the full moon social, to propose something like that. And I think that's the other. And then May, there's another drumming circle of the same kind of
How
celebration.
hot does it get in August there?
Well, it's the humidity. It's not like it
It's
gets like where you are in LA or California, and it's 117 in the valley and all that, in Fresno Valley or Central San Joaquin Valley. We're talking about the humidity, and then we have the thunderstorms that come through when so we have to really kind of, look at that. It gets warm, it gets really in the 90s, but that's kind of real high for here. And out there, it's a heat of the reason it's a heat canopy, and they use the trees as a canopy to reflect how hot it gets. I think it's part of, their challenge of making sure they have that natural, so many preserves out there is for that heat index that's really high out there. And someone else that's into that could probably explain it a little deeper than me hitting the surface of it. So that's something we have to consider. But I think August 8th would be a great time to plan something like that. A place to sit, cafe style seating. They already have that, the conversation, the presentation area, but having 2 of those built by then would be ideal. And then people have to bring their own lawn chairs, sitting stuff. It's room for people. They have to bring their own, seating. And if they need umbrellas or shade and all that is something that we have to put on the flyer that you have to bring. And most people that are coming to outdoor events, they already know they need to bring their own setup. And what we have done here in Bronzeville with the Bronzeville, there's a group that meets up with Stephen Mitchell. They do a pop-up where they tell you location the day of, but everybody comes out and they have their own set up. They have their own table, they have their own drinks, they have their own place settings, and it's like most of the time they show up in white, like a white party, and then, they bring their own chairs, tables, and all that, and they just do this big meetup, like a flash meetup. And that can be something that can be proposed out there as well. And things to do. And then they had games, artwork, and entertainment, that can happen. So looking at this model for placemaking triangulation, I think that we'll use that model and then document some of those things in our placemaking.
Sounds good.
And here are just pop-up. I'll just go through this quickly because we're looking more at the garden setting than the street kind of settings. And then, maybe we do need to look at how people come, and also like with Bill, is it handicap accessible? Can people actually walk it? Where they had to bring in, that walking path. We proposed in another project that they would be building more, because they're right across the street from a senior building. They were having problems with seniors being able to walk on that rocky pavement, and the wheelchairs accessible, or walkers, they weren't accessible. So they didn't really like coming over to that park because they couldn't go past the front entry. So now they have a ramp. Now they have accessible, as he showed, pathways, and we're trying to extend those pathways. So even in Hazel Crest, we have to think through how people are engaged, and if we're inviting the senior population, how are they going to be able to maneuver on the pathways and stuff out there, so that's something that was in our AARP proposal, that we need to kind of further look at. And these are just some more like handouts that I can print out for folks and give each like a promoter, the artist, the designer, the handyman, and things that they are able to do. And then they can make a list from there and host a community walk and talk. So that's when we just kind of, if we're getting people out there and we want to walk and talk, then these are a list of things. Choose a starting location, create an agenda, greet attendees, provide snacks and water, um, local musicians to play, live music, that's what we already proposed, and ask the attendees questions about the community and the demonstration proposal and location. And then I think that I need to put a survey together for that part and invite the work participants to help with the pop-up preparations and attend demonstration events. And then we look at the plan. I really like the way AARP toolkit is really in depth, really thought through. And that's why I always reflect back to this. And we use this kind of mapping for Sacramento, that overview of the space. And I think that using Google Maps would be better than me trying to do a little cartoon, you know, of the site. It's not going to work.
Gotcha.
It's not going to work. We're going to use, I guess, the partnership approach in the budget, because that's how I led out with, you know, what money has already been generated for the project, and you know, and then I listed, you know, the partners and what they're bringing to the table before the ask, to show them that we're already committed to doing the project. Documents we're going to need. You mentioned that health and food safety permit, a special event permit, building permit, and all of these things. And this will have to happen with the commissioner doing that work out there. Paying for the pop-up. I mean, all the kind of things that we need to think about when we're doing things, and what kind of training that we as Pop-Up Research Station needs to do. You know, like Bill came on and they're doing things already, but just putting it in writing of how we want to evaluate and how we want to put their case study together with all this.
Well, maybe something very specific where these things are Q&A and written down on behalf, because obviously there are some hesitancy and stress around some of the written materials. So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that has to be embedded in the approach to be more supportive.
I really like this one right here. This here, like this pop-up stage. You know, we're kind of like this in Bronzeville. We don't really have like, we were using the Culture Coach as a fold-out stage, and it kind of got expensive. And we don't have in the budget to do that anymore. But I love the way they use this as a mural in the background, and then this platform as a stage.
I
It's
can't
just
see,
like,
are you sharing something?
I thought I was sharing something this whole time, no?
You were, and then it's gone, and now you're talking. Now I don't see anything.
Here, let me start it again. What about here? Now, do you see it?
Now I see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I think, I don't know what happened. I was enlarging it, I think is what happened. I was trying to enlarge it to see. I liked with Buffalo, this happened in Buffalo, New York, where they brought a stage out.
It does. I mean, you know, production always helps.
Yeah. So it may be something I'm going to have to talk with them about in terms of, you know, if we're bringing musicians out, are we going to stage them? We're going to create a backdrop for them. What are we going to do? You know what I mean? And me as a visual artist, you know, I had proposed like 4 panels that I was gonna do for my metal chairs, but that's probably the later part of the whole thing. And not, I don't know, that's just an idea. I thought that it's really cool, but then what happens and where's it stored and those kind of things, you know. Um, All right, so a lot of times, thank you letters to local leaders. I think I need to, we did it through an email, but I didn't give the formal thank you to,
Yes, and this is where I have failed in life in general miserably. You could, I mean, we've discussed this before. I can clean toilets and wash, spend countless hours helping people, but if you don't show up with a flower looking pretty, those thank you letters are phenomenal. I think they go so far.
right, and then getting an article in a newspaper or on a local website explaining what happened. And with Hazel Crest, they already have like, a website that's a blog, so updating that is important. And like I have a report to do when I finish this conversation with the AARP project that we did in Sacramento, and I added it to the AARP website is important. And always tooting our horn on the accomplishments and things we're doing as an article. But I blog a lot, so that's that can increase visibility to send people the link that I'm talking about this project. And then surveys. It's just this resistance to surveys that people have to kind of get over. You know what I mean? And in other ways, I know that I made a pop-up sign with, the QR codes. And then for people to click the QR code and go to the survey and then do the survey, they felt like it was too much of a test. That it's like an exam. If I'm coming to an event, why I gotta take an, exam, So we have to rethink getting people to really do the surveys. You know what I mean? And maybe recreating a sign so that at each event, we can, tabulate, and get numbers and data. There we go. For the next thing is data. And meet with the mayor, our county's executive, our city council to share feedback and photos. And that's what we'll do when we plan the meeting with the board, a beautification commission. And then we're supposed to be introduced to the new voted in board. They had board elections in Hazel Crest on April 2nd. And so we need to see who the new people are. And I'll let Marilyn take the lead on that. And we come in as a team for the meeting. But I want to have it really like a PowerPoint, so I'm working with her so that I can show the PowerPoint or whatever and have a publication done, because everybody likes photos and not all the reading, but to show what we've done out there. Arrange to speak again at this council or committee meeting and help the pop-up shops remain in business by negotiating leases. That's on you with your shop that you're doing down there out in California, and then host more pop-up activities and community events. And that's our summer schedule, and keep the conversation going on social media. And that's some of the things that William Hill Center for the Arts is kind of slow with and not doing the conversation on social media. And the same thing with Hazel Crest and their blog site for the beautification. It's just it's always like maybe 2 sentences. It's never any in-depth thing to talk about what the work that they're doing, because they're too busy doing the work. Like you're too busy doing the work to sit and do this part of the reporting. So that's where pop-up research station has to come in and do this work.
Woohoo!
Yeah, pop-up projects, do's and don'ts. Don't wait to get started. Set a 90 days out, which we're doing. Don't take on too much. That whole smaller, quicker, that acronym, going in out there. We don't need to just try to do everything when we go in. What's that acronym I used earlier in terms of planning?
Oh,
Ah, you forgot?
yeah.
Oh. Lighter, quicker, cheaper. short-term experiments, you know, not where we're going in so deep. We go in and we do the
Yeah,
planning for it,
I can
see what
tell
it
you
looks
right
like.
now.
Do keep the pop-up event short, ideally no more than 4 hours. Events that last too long can wear out volunteers and seem sad when the crowd thins out. Do take lots of pictures and videos. In many ways, that event didn't happen if it isn't documented, and so many times. That's why I was reminding Bill to make sure that they, document. You ask them what happened, and it just didn't happen. Because they didn't take out time, that they're doing too much, and didn't take out time to take the camera, but always have someone there to document, a volunteer, and tell them what to focus on. Because one of my pet peeves with one of my clients is they photograph, and the photographs are portraits. I don't need you to take a picture of one person. I need you to take a picture, focus on the crowd. Don't take pictures of empty chairs in the photo. It means like really not that many people are there, because you're not, there's just different ways to and stage pictures, and you don't stage the picture. Take candid shots of people that really enjoy the event. And keep the momentum going. Schedule a gathering of the sponsors and volunteers to talk about what's next, and keep up the advocacy efforts to make the demonstration improvements permanent. All right, so anyway, these are some other case study examples of what's happening in other cities, and that I thought it was very, like I said, I'm using this recipe catalog from AARP, and these are all free, and all you have to do is order it, and they ship it free, for your library, and or use the online ones. But I have several, like when I take to different events and we're doing the brainstorming, I just put them on the table so people can, have. And next week, I'm going to showcase the ground mural that we put in the parking lot. And I don't know if you attended some of the placemaking in parking lots, and that was more of an international topic that placemaking was having, I think 5 years ago. And see how this parking lot transformed there at where Sojourner Truth and the Donaldson properties are there in Sacramento. So I can, and we're doing here in Bronzeville, alley activations. That's what we're doing in Bronzeville. Then we activate during events. There's a huge sculpture installation that Andre Gushard just brought in from artists from Zimbabwe, the Shona's collection. And I'll show that at one of our next pop-up cafes. And these are some of the other outdoor projects that I'm going to be doing this kind of outdoor, working on art in the garden this summer here in Chicago. Instead of taking off and being in California or Maryland, I'm going to work here more.
Enjoy it. You'll enjoy it more. It's the travel ad is a lot.
Yeah, it was way too much. And pop-up shops, that's what you're doing in your vacant retail location.
Somebody is calling me, actually, a friend in San Francisco who they secured a large community space. So I might bring them in to discuss when we have extra time.
Okay. And seating, I'm going to show you some seating elements that Shona has for the garden projects she's doing with cinder blocks and 4x4 poles. And then the signage on the ground, we need to get some templates to show people the entryway to some of these projects that we don't, that we may be able to do. I think that that's a good, excellent idea. And I see a lot of placemaking projects around Chicago where they cut off streets and, um, uh, where neighbors gather, where that once was a street. And now they're, places that, where families can gather, that I've taken photographs of like that. So anyway, that's kind of like, I'll just kind of get through this. We're almost at the end of, you know, and this is one of the things I think for like with the canopy out there when it's hot and we're in the garden, we can be temporary canopies that cover the sun. Yeah, these are some, I really love these alley activations and spaces right here. All right, so that's all I got for you today. You know, what we went over and a little bit more.